Hey guys, welcome back. Yes, I am in the same spot as my last video wearing the same thing because it's the same day and I finally decided I need to film these things. So I hope you watched my last video actually, or else everything I said doesn't make sense. But I did review Ben Reeves' The Wilderness last week, and I do have a couple other book reviews up right now as well. I'm primarily trying just to focus on indie and self-published books so that they can also get a little bit more promotion. And today's video was requested by the author, Stephen Harris. He messaged me and asked if I would review his book for a free copy. So even though the book's already been out, it's kind of like an ARC review. So this will be an honest and critical review of Untamed, like I said, by Stephen Harris. And first we're going to read the Goodreads description, and then we're going to dive in to my notes. I have four full-on pages of notes. So, yeah. I'm gonna read this and give you guys the covers, because the one up here is going to be the Goodreads cover, and then the one over here is going to be the cover on the current Kindle version. And then we're gonna talk about the covers, and then I'll probably come back on screen. I'm sorry, yeah, you have to look at me again. Deal with it. Untamed by Stephen Gerald Harris. Due to many ongoing health conditions, Iva has lived a life of total despair and hopelessness. Everything changes when she discovers a mysterious scarlet box at an antique store. She soon finds out that this evil creature, known as the Hellhound, wants it destroyed. For the box holds the power to annihilate him and his kind. But Iva is faced with another serious problem. The contents within the box have somehow fused with her upon opening it. Now, a brave black lion known as Maine and a group of young adults must protect Iva at all cost. Although death can come for her at any moment, she realizes, with the help of her newly found friends, that it's never too late to hope and pursue happiness. Then real quick before we jump into the cover, that's the first time that I read that. I don't know why I'm in the habit of not reading the description before picking up a book. But I feel like that was the beginning. The focus on the box was a little bit more so than in the book. But I definitely kind of like the way that he summed up the end of it with her, it's never too late to hope and pursue happiness. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. So I feel like that's a pretty accurate description of the story without revealing all the good parts. So now we're going to talk about the covers, and you can see it's pretty much the same / similar layout. So the biggest difference between these two covers are, one, the Goodreads version has the actual title and author name on it, which kind of irked me at the beginning because I was like, okay, I see a beautifully airbrushed picture, but it looks more like a poster than the book cover. You do have 4 characters kind of arranged in this diamond style. You've got Maine, the Black Lion, the Hellhound at the top and center, Iva at the bottom with the red box, and then the 4th character changes. I believe the 4th character that appears is Daniel. I'm gonna guess that it's Daniel. But on the new cover, I think it's either Maria or it's Kenya, her mother. I think Daniel might have been the better character to have on the cover if he really wanted to keep these 4. But Kenya does give it a little more diversity, so I'm not sure why he changed that. I mean, Daniel or Jason, regardless of who the 4th character is. The biggest mistake on this cover was having the Hellhound top and center, because in the Goodreads cover, it's at least dark enough that it kind of blends in with the background, and Iva is standing out more. But on the current cover, it's too much Hellhound. I was like, this looks like a horror or some kind of creepy thing, and I don't like him. I don't like him at all. And then as I started reading it, I'm like, oh, well, Iva should have been the main focus, and then he should have been in the background somewhere. I mean, it's a beautifully done image, but I feel like the proportions put too much focus on the Hellhound, not enough on Iva, and then I don't quite understand the choice to switch the fourth character. You definitely need the Black Lion mane, because he is all powerful and awesome. So it kind of throws you off to not have the title on it. And so since this is claimed to be a series in progress, it's also what's coming up on the next covers. That's all I'm going to say about that. So a lot of my notes were pretty much as I was reading along, because early on I had a lot of things to say. And now I'm going to preface this really quick before I get into the gritty details. The story was really good, but the presentation as a novel was lacking. And as doing this as an honest critique, honest review, I'm not going to hold back all of my thoughts, good and bad. But I do encourage you guys, I do honestly encourage you guys to pick up the story and read it. I believe it's available on his website, on a couple websites. It was initially not necessarily a Wattpad story, but something like that, where it was posted online, and you can definitely tell that in the formatting. So I know it's out there. I know he has it pretty much free to read, and any money he can make from it is going towards an editor. So he mentions that at the end of the book. Sorry, this isn't the book. That's my notes. So I do know that much, and I did enjoy the story enough to say, yeah, go read it. But if you're picking it up as an ebook, just expect that it's not correctly formatted as a novel. It is still pretty much a copy and paste from his internet posting, basically. So we're gonna skim through these read along notes. So it's gonna be a little bit random for a bit, and then I do have kind of my summary notes at the end. So the first thing when you open the book is it has an interactive section that says, hey, there's some scenes in here I want you to listen to music to. Here's the list of music, the list of songs, and you'll be told when to play it. Okay, that's fun. I like the take on it being interactive, kind of doing multimedia. And then there's also a note that the genre changes within the book, and not necessarily before each chapter, but every other chapter or so. More so at the beginning, it would be like horror, chapter, crime, chapter, fantasy for a chapter, drama for a chapter. And it's not necessary for the author to specify this, because the book can fall into multiple genres, and everything that fell into this definitely felt kind of like a horror fantasy with some crime drama. Like, you don't have to tell people and try it, because I, even trying to put myself in the mind frame that, oh, this is what the chapter is, I didn't need to do it, because if it was a crime scene, it felt like a crime scene. It was already written as what it was. You didn't have to tell me ahead of time. Just little things like that that could easily be edited out. The writing is very visual. I felt the imagery was very good, but I noticed quite a bit of repetition, or where he would show and then tell something, or vice versa. So you'd see the description of someone's face and then be like, oh, they were angry, and just kind of gathered that from the description. Or like I said, vice versa, where it's like, oh, he's angry and his face looked like this and this and this and blah blah blah. I just needed a look through to take out essentially those double scenes, because it wasn't just showing emotion. It would say she turned around and saw him running after her, and then a few sentences later, she saw him break out of the woods running after her. It was literally the same instant but repeated, and it was enough times and enough of a significant error that I had to reread it, so it stuck out. So I got my notes. Whereas most times, if it's just a easy typo or a small grammar thing, usually my brain is just autocorrect. But it had to be mentioned as a forewarning to those who read it. There are some very strong editing flaws here, because it has not been edited yet. yet being the key word, and I'm just letting you know what's up. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So as I mentioned, it was kind of copied from whatever internet posting he was doing. He also included pictures, which I'm a fan of pictures. I say it every time. I love myself an illustrated cover and, you know, illustrations in the book. But these weren't illustrations. These were just kind of like pictures taken from Google. And some of those are copyrighted. So I messaged him and I was like, you have to take these out because they will find you. And this will not be good. Like, you have to take out these pictures. There's a few at the beginning. It really kind of lessened more toward the middle and end of the book. There were a couple, but they were mostly like landscape and sunsets, like kind of setting the scene, which again, he had the great imagery, so I didn't need the picture, but I didn't mind those pictures. It was the other pictures that I was like, oh, those aren't yours. And emoticons, I think it's emojis. Each chapter, except for maybe a couple, but almost every single chapter had this giant emoji at the beginning, and I just wanted to rip them out because I don't know if you're trying to tell me how to feel, because again, you don't need to tell me how to feel. Have faith in your readers that your writing will convey the emotion they need. Like, don't say, hey, you need to be sad or this is gonna be a sad chapter, or, you know, this is a funny scene, this is the fun and games part. Don't do that. And don't use emoji. It doesn't fit with the story. If it was a story about like something going online or an online game, or they're chatting back and forth, yeah, use the emojis, emoticons, whatever they are, use the internet language because it fits the setting. These just literally felt like they were in to tell the reader, hey, this one's gonna be funny, ha ha ha, with little tears and stuff. That was very irritating. And they weren't like small either, they were like half the page. Whether it was because of the pictures or just because of you know, the whole copy and paste thing, the formatting of the chapters shifted, so it wasn't, the chapter would start like on a new page and it would start at various heights. We're getting into the real nitty-gritty because I have all the notes, so just things to expect. So I get to the first section where he wants us to play the song, and I'm like, okay, you know, the text is like blue, so I'm like, oh, maybe it's a link, but it doesn't link in the ebook. I was like, I gotta look this song up, but at the beginning of the chapter, he tells you what song to play, and then in the chapter, it just says, play song now. And this is pages later, and I'm just like, ooh, I did not write that down, because I thought you would A, remind me, or B, it would like link. So I had to go back to the beginning of the chapter, which only had the song name, so I had to go back again to the intro to find the song with the artist, and then look it up on YouTube and play it while I was reading. And I usually don't do this. I don't have any background music. I just want silence around me when I'm reading because I'm totally immersed in the book. But I, you know, did this for the experience. Like, all right, let's see if this music makes it any different. And this was like the horror chapter, but the music was very much more like epic drama, sort of. It was kind of getting into a fight scene, but I just didn't feel like it fit as well. And I think my brain mostly tuned it out after a while because I was reading, and I tuned stuff out. So for me, adding the music didn't add anything to the story, and I did not listen to any of the following songs because I wasn't, you know, I was reading it at work or in bed. I wasn't about to get onto YouTube and look up the song, you know, and play it just so for that little scene. It works in a visual novel platform, I believe, or again on the internet if you're able to have that preset control of where the music is playing to your scene, because people read at different speeds as well, and if you're giving people cues like wait for the chorus, it's like that chorus played like a minute ago, or you know, they could still be reading a paragraph before that and the song is finished because they read slower. You can't control those things, so unless you're forcing it into like a pre-made video setting, or it's on the page and it's already playing. I think there you can use it, but not in a print or ebook. It's no one, I don't think enough people are going to go out of their way to look up the music for the scenes. There was also random comments within the narration from the, I would assume, the author. And the first one was SMH, which I think is shake my head. I'm not up for the internet lingo as much anymore. Like, I was like, oh, is that supposed to be there? Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe it means something else. But then he had like LOLs and like little comments like, bet you didn't see that coming, which I did see that one coming. I did. That part, I did see that coming. And I was just like, I don't need you in here. Like, we're not... Again, I feel like online, when you're interacting more with your readers, maybe it's not inappropriate, but if you're marketing it as a book, as a novel, you have to take yourself out of it. But despite all of that extra nonsense, the character voices are engaging. There's Iva, who's the main character. She starts out, was she born paraplegic? I think she was, because she spent her whole life like in her room, in her chair, looking out the window and dreaming of things, and then she finds the box and she's more or less healed, and now she's also getting chased by the Hellhound. So there's her, there's the Hellhound, and her uncle is the detective on the case. There's 5 young adults, that was funny that he said that in the description, who become her friends and help her, and they're all tied in this with their destinies, and a few of the professors and parents. So it was nice to see the variety of characters, not just diverse in their cultures, but also their roles. Like, parents actually did stuff in here. That was good. I think low-key my favorite character was Professor Grant, who I affectionately call Dr. Grant. And then bad things happened to him, and I felt it. So good on the author there, because it was early on in the story, and you don't get too many scenes with him, but you're already like, you're a cool dude. I like it. I like you. And then you see the thing coming, and you're like, and now I'm sad. You don't need the emoji to tell me I'm gonna be sad for that, okay? The characters were very well developed. Each of them were very unique, and in the middle of the book, after you kind of had a major plot reveal, you do have, it was a bit slow, and I'm not sure if the author was focused on that specifically to give the characters a chance to build relationships with each other more. That's pretty much what went on. But it was very cute, and it was very well done how Iva built a relationship with each of the characters, each of her friends. Plot-wise, the beginning was so action, horror, crime, drama heavy, and that middle part felt slow because everything that the Hellhound did was here. And then here, like, he was in the back, he wasn't in the background necessarily, but he was in the back of their minds, like, he's coming after you, blah, blah, blah. And then he appears again at the end for an exceedingly long action sequence, I guess. I feel like there could have been a way to take something that the Hellhound did, or even add another thing into that middle to break it up, but still give them the chance, like, because he switches POV, so we could have seen something else that the Hellhound did. Like, he could have probably done the bomb scene or something, because a couple of the murder events that happened early on with the Hellhound were with random characters, so they weren't connected to essentially the main character's storyline at all, except for the Hellhound being in there. So either having those characters be more significant to the storyline and having the events kind of also come more through the book, not just at the beginning, might have balanced it better, but I didn't have too big an issue with the way that the story went, because it was a nice little break. You kind of got to know everybody, and then everything went crazy again. Whether that was planned or not, I don't know. If it was, I think it was planned pretty well. And if it was one of those, like, kind of you're on a weekly update and you just have to write it, then I think it was really well done, because it's hard to tie your story together on the fly, essentially. The dialogue was also written really well. It felt very natural, except for when it was purposely to, like, explain something in longer detail. Then it felt a little stiff, but I feel like the casual conversation dialogue felt really natural. Does everybody know how long 9-inch nails are? 9-inch nails? This is a 6-inch ruler with Scooby-Doo on it. Yeah, maybe like that long is a 9-inch nail. If this is woven into a rope, and that rope snares someone around the neck, it gonna kill them right away. It's gonna go straight through that neck, you know, like, it's like that 6 inches is gonna do it. So there's a couple times where the Hellhound snared people with this 9-inch nail woven rope, and I was like, they're dead. That's gone through them. There is no you pull it a little tighter and it starts digging in. It's no, they're dead. I feel like that was just more of a visual inconsistency. And I'm not sure if it was supposed to reference the band 9 Inch Nails at all, or at least kind of be like a shout out to them, because yeah, they do make great music. I do like their music. But I was like, that's too long a nail. I think that's too long for what you're trying to do to them. Like, if it's a slow torture, then you want those, I think they're like that long. So then they're like digging, but it's not killing it yet. So that's what we're talking about today. How long does a nail have to be for it to be a snare and not an instant death? There is a chapter I think half of it is literally a repeat of the first chapter, the first scene that we read. You can repeat scenes and you can come back to scenes, but you can't have the exact same words going on, the same actions. You either come into a scene like you're like I'm trying to get a good example for So let's say it's a basketball game, and the first time you see it, you have the Team A going up to the hoop and scoring the final, followed by an ice cream party, and you get all of that. Now, if you come back to that scene because something else was happening, what you probably should do is tell it from an entirely different perspective, so it's not the same play-by-play, or you're leading up to the moment where they rush for the final score and then skip through the ice cream part or whatever, so you're coming in at a different point again later. You can't just copy and paste the same scene, because we'll notice it and we will just skip. We'll read as much as we can until we're like, this is the same thing, and then we try to find the end of it. That just needed some reworking as well. I definitely called who the bad guys initially were. I did not see the twist for who the Hellhound was. I'm not 100% sure I'm convinced on the foreshadowing up to it. It's not unbelievable, but the character who was in place, like pretending to be the Hellhound, was more believable than the person who it was, which I think that was the intention, but it came out of left field when it was revealed, and I was like, what? Like, you were in the book twice? I feel like there could have been either something like hidden in description or like just dropped in dialogue of connecting the characters a bit more. But that's just foreshadowing, and that's something you can go through and edit into. Not sure if this would count as a spoiler, but because it is free to read, and I think this is actually kind of what hooked me into the story, is that the Black Lion is one of the, I don't know if you want to call it a shifter or an animal changer. The friends that Iva makes, they all turn into animals, like huge animals. There's a very good backstory to the legend of all the different animal races, and the wolves are evil, so I knew who the wolves were. I don't know if it was just because they were animals or because it did add that fantasy element to the story, but that's really what hooked me. And Iva, with her healing part of that whole like Scarlet Box thing, is she is now connected to that destiny that's about to unfold. Like when she's hanging out with them, it's like, how do you not know what baseball is and a flat iron in soccer? Like, yeah, you were in your room reading and writing, but especially if you were reading, you probably read about baseball or something at some point. Like it was unbelievable, her lack, like it was one of those scenes where it's like they're watching a sport where a guy hit a ball with a stick and you're just like, so she was watching baseball? I think everybody else, like, I don't know. It was not believable that she didn't know what it was. There's 3 instances of that. So that means it's significant. It gets in the notes. 3 is significant. I think there's literally a quote in here, because I wrote it down, that says, life is a book with many genres. And I believe that was someone monologuing or talking to Iva or something. And it was definitely a throw to what this book is. Like, there were quite a few references how this actual book that the author was writing was connected to the story. Kind of like how the Neverending Story is connected to stuff. And I think I would have appreciated it more if there was less of that, the author commentary and the internet's, like, the random narration and comments in there. Because it takes you out just to be like, ah, yeah, I see what you're doing there. But when it's constantly thrown at you, it just is like, oh, well, that's cheesy. The ending. Several pages of an action sequence. And I like action. But when a good chunk of the book is an action sequence, I quickly lose the interest to read every word. I found myself skimming through the ending. Like I said, it was a giant action sequence, and I didn't need that much information. Yes, this is where it should have been a visual media, and it should have been, animated or some kind of show, because you're able to show all those things without taking the words and the pages to do it. And it was very well planned, because I read most of it, but it was just to the point of, okay, well, I think part of it was actually in slow motion, which is another thing that the author put in there, like a cinematic mode where you're supposed to picture things in slow motion. And you don't need to tell people to picture things in slow motion when you're writing it. And he wrote it correctly. He wrote it perfectly fine, where he had, almost your moment to moment actions. So because you have such detail, you feel time is going slower. So you don't need to tell the reader. So again, this is where you just need to trust your reader a little bit to see things and read it the way that you write it. He writes it well. He writes it the way that he's trying to show it, but he's showing also. And you don't need to, or he's telling also, sorry. He's showing us perfectly fine, and then he tells us, or he tells us ahead, and it takes away the effect of it, or it's just redundant. Long action sequence. But man, that hellhound don't quit. So that was, like I said, I really wish I could have seen it. Like, if you turn this into an animation, dude, do that. That'd be awesome. And then the wrap up for this book was really, really good. All the plot threads that needed to were tied up, and it did have a very nice transition into what will be book 2. I'm told it's in the works, and that's that's good because it needs to be. You got the first part of the story with the Hellhound. Like, this is primarily like the Hellhound taking him down and everything. But obviously it's much bigger with the whole animal races kind of plot line. So I thought the ending wrapped up really well. The ending was great. It did what make me want to read more. And because of, building a relationship with the characters, there's sort of a love triangle going on. Like, the story is very strong. So this is the case. Do I have any other things important to say? I don't know. This is the case where the story is stronger than the presentation. And I say that rather than the writing because his writing was strong enough to tell the story. It needed that extra read through to pick up on typos. There were very obvious typos that I'm like, were you writing this on your phone and it just autocorrected and you never reread it? The story was very, very strong. And that's what got me through all 400 plus pages of this book. The story was good. It just needed, and still needs to get edited in order to be properly opened up as a novel. It's a publication, and there's similar reviews on Goodreads and Amazon where they enjoyed the story. They just felt that the edits and the stuff like that was lacking, and it hurts the book because could be a 5-star story, but with everything else, if people can't finish it because of all the errors and the unnecessary copy and paste pictures and whatnot, then its rating suffers. And I almost don't want to even give it a star rating because it's not as black and white as that. Like, you need this whole video description to know why I'm giving it the rating I am. I gave it a 3-star. And I really did enjoy the story. Looking at it as an individual book, I applaud the story itself and the plot, but there were so many times that I was frustrated with the format as it was presented in the ebook that I literally killed a red pen writing everything down. So, but that's an easy fix. That's a lot harder, and it's different than having a dull story but clean writing, which I have reviewed a book like that, and I also gave it a 3-star because it wasn't quite there. But this, you clean up the editing on this and it can easily be a 4-star. But star ratings aren't important, guys. It's all biased and opinions, and just, I enjoyed the story. I wish it was presented better. Long story short. And I think I've touched on all of my points. I know I didn't break it down the way I usually do with characters, world building, and everything because there was kind of so much going on that I had to ramble through my notes to convey them the best that I could. If you do have any questions, or if you read this book and you want to talk about it, definitely comment below. I try to be as honest as possible. Like, for me, having a good story is very, very important. But you need to also put that time in to clean it up and make it the best that it can be. And that's not as simple as throwing it at an editor. Like, you have to do some of the work yourself too. And I think the things that I mentioned is definitely something the author can do. Removing the pictures, fixing the formatting, checking for typos. That alone will significantly improve the reading experience. So thank you for watching this video and this review on this hot day. Somehow I'm not just melting. The air finally kicked on. That's great. But that was my review for Untamed by Stephen Harris. Again, I encourage you guys to read it for yourselves and try to autocorrect in your head if you have to. But the story is worth it. And next week we're going to be ranking the Disney Twisted Tales books. Finally, and I'm so excited because this means I get to buy the Hercules book next. So look forward to that video, because I'm also gonna rip into a couple of these. And I try not to be just like a harsh critic, but I guess when there's something, when I like something, it's, you know, when you like something, it's super easy. You like it just because. When you don't, then you're always able to find reasons that you don't. So we'll see how Disney stands up to my recent critical reviews, and I will talk to you guys next time. If you have any indie or self-published book that you would like me to review, comment it below or hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. You know, just send me a message through there with your book recommendation, whether it's yours or just one that you've read, someone you know. And editing me here again. I really don't understand why my video has been cutting out like the last few seconds each time, but it really only happens with longer videos. So I just got to kind of, I guess, drag out the ending to make sure I get in the last words, because I was literally just saying my like final greeting. But yeah, after rewatching this entire review, yeah, like I definitely did enjoy the story. I'm not gonna like drag this on. I definitely did enjoy the story, and I know a lot of people kind of say like don't publish your first draft, don't or your first story or whatever. But as someone who did publish early in their career, I guess, and that was with my graphic novels, I learned so much from it. There's only a little bit regret, but it's not quite like, oh man, I put out something bad or whatever. We're gonna talk about that later. That's one train of thought, but I would rather see more like novice authors putting their work out there and then being able to kind of take that constructive reviews. So does that mean you should print it? I don't think so. I think you should go through a couple of drafts, or at least start taking that work to critique partners. However, because I think having more variety in the publishing world would be awesome, and just trying to encourage new authors, young authors, to get their work out there is very important, because like once you get your feet wet, you'll kind of know if that's the direction you want to go or if it's not for you. So that's going to be the last little snag on here. All of my social medias are in the description. Look forward to next week ranking and review of the Twisted Tales, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a great one.